hands going uphill. Going down, I do yes. Yes. Gymnastics is such a compelling environment for all children. The child is instantly engaged. The objective here is how do we get a child who is challenged motorically, endurance-wise, strength-wise, praxis-wise, to use their body in a functional way. The child with special needs can flourish in the gym. A child's occupation is to play. The connection between gymnastics and occupational therapy is the perfect combination.
At Tumbl Trak, we work with therapists and specialists in a variety of settings, including schools, therapy clinics, gymnastics facilities, and they all share a common goal to get children to grow through movement.
As occupational therapists, we're supporting a child in their development where we're really thinking about their individual profile, which really takes into account their ability to process sensory information, both physically and emotionally. We're looking at their postural control and their ability to communicate.
Ooh, we're flying through the air. Back and forth. Here we go. I see the wind coming.
One of the benefits of the Tumbl Trak equipment is that its size and shape naturally affords the opportunity for children to problem solve, helping children think about visual and spatial requirements for moving through space. That's cool. The parents, I think, are very excited to see their children not only mastering physical challenges, but feeling creative as we support them in their planning and sequencing.
It's just our fun time. There's no arguments here, no distractions. It's just play.
Green light, red light, green light.
Red light.
Working in a classroom, having a sensory corner works best if you in fact have tools, toys that you can use interchangeably quickly that allow us great creativity.
Some kids, in order to access doing handwriting or math, will need, what we call with a 60-second sensory break. We came up with our beautiful sensory corner that we use multiple times a day with our students. Favorite piece of equipment is the fitness wheel.
Oh, baby.
Having the Tumbl Trak equipment in our classroom has made a huge difference. From the beginning of the school year, we had quite a few of them all over the place. We couldn't sit down, couldn't do work because they had such high sensory needs and they weren't being met. The academics weren't being met. By having the equipment, they go in there, they get their sensory break, and they jump, they roll, they spin, and then they can come out and we see the biggest difference in their academics.
Focus here. So right now her system is in an arousal zone, but calm. So her ability to hold that pencil now is better than when I saw it before. She's attending faster, which is exactly what we want. 1, 2, 3.
For Lewis, he has made huge improvements. At home, as a mom, it's been awesome because the meltdowns are basically gone. We still have them, but he's 7. We expect that. But it has decreased dramatically.
Lewis is what I refer to in big fun as a sensory junkie. The more you give him, the more he will accept. What he's looking for is that arousal. The arousal of rotation is excitatory. Whoa. You stay right there.
Now remember, don't touch the carpet. It was really cool to see how clumsy he was the first time, maybe half as much the second time, and then he just nailed it all the other times. It was so great to see him be so successful. The Tumbl Trak equipment is great for Vance. He has come a long way in being able to organize and coordinate his body. He is starting to put together movement and ideas for retrieving things out of his reach. That requires a higher level of sequencing and planning than I've ever seen in Vance before.
Excellent. Oh. I think it's from the top. Ready? Action. Get control of your ship, sir. You're showing how to control them. Good. Open it up.
The Tumbl Trak equipment has been such a wonderful addition to our clinic. It has allowed us to explore movement and ideas in play in new and exciting ways, and that is always really fun.
For this child, he's really good. He has upper extremity control sometimes. So being able to engage independent standing, yeah, that's got to feel great for him every once in a while.
Whoa, it's a dream. Like a circus.
Our hope in working with kids with special needs is that we can provide them with equipment that allows them to access play and experience all of the benefits that come from play. The feeling of joy and happiness and a way to engage with their peers and feel like they belong in the world and in their communities.
It's awesome. I never get tired of watching that video. It's 7 minutes long, so it's a bit of a long one, but it just really highlights a lot of the collaborations. We're going to be talking a little bit about collaborations today that we've had in the past, and it's just so great to see our equipment being used in so many unique and awesome settings. So for those of you who are just joining us, we just watched a 7-minute video called Grow Through Movement, and we will be sending the recording of this webinar out to folks afterwards. So if you missed it, you'll have another opportunity to see that in the recording. I highly recommend that you watch it. It's so amazing. So we have a couple more minutes before we get our official start underway. But I wanted to kind of point out to everyone, we have so many regions being represented today. It's pretty exciting. We've got folks, a lot of folks from the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Iowa, New Jersey, Virginia, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and even a club or a clinic from Ontario. So it's great to see everybody joining us from so many different parts of the country and the world today. We're super excited to see you all here. We've got Carrie Spender. I'll give a little bit more of a formal introduction a little bit later, but Carrie is joining us from Port Townsend, Washington, out of Twisters Gymnastics. And so she will be supplementing Sheri's presentation with some live views from a gymnastics club in Port Townsend area. And so not only will you see lots of cool video clips of the equipment being used, but you'll also see some live demonstration of the equipment as well. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully we've got our P's and Q's minded with the technology, and we'll be able to make that transition back and forth. I also hope everybody received their lovely Tumbl Trak coffee mug and coffee in the mail. We did have a couple late registrants, some that came in just over the weekend. So I just want to let everyone know that if that's the case, we will get yours mailed to you expeditiously. All right. So it is 6:15, and we're going to go ahead and be mindful of everybody's precious time. So we're gonna start right now. So my name is Stacy Finnerty, and I am the CEO of Tumbl Trak. And I'm just so excited for today's webinar. Thank you so much for coming and joining us this evening. Tumbl Trak really has been around since 1988, but we have really more of a background in the sport of gymnastics and cheer and dance. But it was probably about 6, maybe 7 years ago, we saw a shift in the gymnastics community where more and more gymnastics facilities were wanting to offer programming for special needs. And we started getting a lot of feedback from those programs that our equipment was really conducive for the type of programming that they were implementing. And so we really thought, well, could we delve into this a little bit more deeply? And we started looking at how we could maybe approach more of a clinical industry. And we started building a lot of collaborations with folks such as yourselves, as well as trying to really build on our knowledge base. And it really has led us down a pretty amazing path over these last couple of years. And we're so thankful for the folks who've helped us, including Sheri, we'll meet her a little bit later, who've helped us along this path. Before we get started, I also want to introduce real quickly, Shirley Kuchera and Shelly O'Brien are both from Tumbl Trak, and many of you may have had some communication with them. This is a small, we wanted this to be kind of a small, intimate event. It is one of our first live events that we've done, so we invite you all to turn your video on at any point throughout the next hour. If you have any questions, please feel free to either, unmute yourself. Like I said, we're a small group, so feel free to do that. But if you're more comfortable, you can also drop questions in the chat, and we'll definitely address those as we can. So again, thank you so much for being here. The last person I want to introduce is Carrie Spender. Carrie is Tumbl Trak's educational director, and she has just really played such a pivotal role in that whole path that I mentioned we've gone down over the last few years of learning and building collaborations. She's really done an amazing job. And with that, I will turn things over to Carrie.
Well, thank you, Stacy, and hi all. I am so pleased to be here. It was so fun to watch that opening video because that really does mark the beginning of our journey in special needs work, and that was about 6 years ago. You're right, Stacy. And now just being here tonight really does just emphasize for us where we've come along our journey. Tonight is going to be hopefully a host of information. Our hope is that you are going to be able to take home some ideas right from this, from the hour that we're going to spend together, that of the content that Sheri and I have put together for you. I am here in Port Townsend, Washington, as Stacy mentioned, in a gymnastics facility, and this is considered one of our test facilities, which is why we have so much equipment accessible here. And I understand that Sheri's going to put me to the test, asking me to bring out some of the equipment and show you some of the features so that you can find out as much as you would like about the equipment. So feel free to ask questions and shout out what you would like to know about all the equipment behind me as we go along. We're going to find out today a little bit. I'll go over our agenda. Sheri's must-haves, you are going to hear her speak about throughout the entire session. We will be focusing on core strengthening and motor planning. We had to narrow it down somewhere. we could be here for days and days. So we narrowed it down to those two important areas to focus on. We're really hoping for to finish off the session with a lively panel discussion. I'm hoping that the ideas that you see today will spur a lot of questions from you. And then we also have a couple of questions we'd like to ask, and we'll finish up with some resources, additional resources, so that when you leave us today, you know where to find us in the future and find more information. So here on this slide, as Stacy mentioned, Tumbl Trak has been around for 33 years. And about 6 or 7 years ago, we attended our first AOTA show as vendors. And it was so eye-opening because we are so well known for what you just saw in the video. That's Olympian Chelsea Memel. And that product, the Tumbl Trak that she's tumbling on, is the original product that our founder started with 33 years ago. And to see that that product is used by Olympians and athletes all around the world, and as well in many clinics around the United States and the world, is just so gratifying to us. It just is so pleasing. Besides gymnastics, besides therapy, folks in dance, martial arts, cheerleading have really found uses. And that is really, you know, our company and founders' dream come true, to see children succeeding using Tumbl Trak equipment. A little bit about our company and what we value as a company. So first off, it's very, very important that athletes and children are safe and progressing well. We have that in the top of our mind as we are developing equipment. We want to make sure that they are participating on soft surfaces, on friendly surfaces. It was 33 years ago that tumblers were tumbling on wood floors. So our founder, Doug, instantly recognizes that we needed some advanced technology in the equipment, and we've come a long way since then, 33 years ago. Education is also very important. A lot of people ask me, oh my gosh, how are you the education coordinator for an equipment manufacturer? And that's because our company really does believe in supporting our communities with good education. We pride ourselves in being very innovative, versatile, durable, and high quality. Those are the words that our customers use to describe our equipment. And I'm hoping that you'll see a lot of that today in our presentation. And we also value community growth and collaboration. The idea that in that opening video, you saw so many folks, professionals come forth, willing to share their success stories with Tumbl Trak equipment. And of course, we'll hear from Sheri as well, is just very, very gratifying to us as well. It's a really important part of our company's values. So the real star of the show today is Sheri Ireland-Berk. And I had the pleasure of meeting up with her as a follow-up, actually. One of the, and she'll tell you more about how she met us here, or she found us here at Tumbl Trak. But it has just been a joy to work with her for the last 4 years. And Sheri is a pediatric physical therapist for the past 30 years, right, Sheri? And she's worked in clinics that have tons of equipment, really big clinics, and then, you know, all the way down to whatever she can fit in her car and bring to a person's home. She works mobily as well, and Zoom. So she brings to us a host of ideas. She has taught me so much about Tumbl Trak and our place in therapy. So we are very, very grateful to her. So Sheri, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and get the show started.
Thank you, Carrie and Stacy. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. I actually heard Tumbl Trak for the first time because my son was a competitive gymnast, and I thought that Tumbl Trak was the big for jumping and the big trampoline. And so that's where I came up with, that's what I thought about Tumbl Trak. So fast forward, I had an opportunity in a clinic that I was working with in the Chicagoland area, BDI Playhouse Therapy, we were opening a bigger clinic, and we were expanding our footage, and we had this opportunity to fill a lot of space that we never did before. And the owner, Janice Bouts, invited me to kind of investigate equipment. And so I had this daunting task of trying to figure out what kind of equipment I needed to fill the space. We wanted it to be attractive. We wanted it to be exciting for kids when they walked in, but we also wanted it to be, we didn't want to spend a ton of money and have all this equipment laying around. And over the years, in some of the places that I've worked at, that's exactly what happens. You have this giant piece of equipment that everybody promises you is going to do all these things, and the next thing you know, it's sitting in a corner, kind of collecting dust, and you don't use it that much. So we did that. One of our therapists was a competitive gymnast, one of our physical therapists, and she also was doing some pediatric therapy in a neighborhood gymnastics place, and she wanted a trampoline. That was her big thing. So we looked into Tumbl Trak. I started to call the company. I started to go back and forth and do emails. I was blown away at how personal this company was. I was speaking with people, and they were saying, well, look at this, and what's your population, and what kind of kids are you seeing? And so piece by piece, we started putting together the clinic that you'll see here. And this is the clinic that I was in the Chicagoland area, and it's BDI Playhouse. And so you'll see a lot of the Tumbl Trak equipment kind of spread out everywhere. And so that's kind of where I first started using it. So I picked a couple very simple pieces, and then I saw how it worked and how I could use it. And then we picked other pieces, and we added and we subtracted, and moved them to other places and all. And I think I'm begging you to talk about this, because I love the Tumbl Trak brand. I love the equipment. I love everything about it. And so I just am so honored to come forth and to tell you what I love about it and how I use it. So you might want to go ahead, and then I know what I'm going to say. Yep. Next. Okay. So as therapists, and I'll just give you one of these. As therapists, we get into little groups, and we talk about all the time. If you're, as a therapist, you'll hear people say, what's your one piece of equipment that you could never do without? What would you have to have? And I'm going to be honest with you, it changes about every 5 minutes. And I'm always changing my mind and trying to figure out, but the truth is, there's a couple pieces of equipment, and I said to Carrie, I have to talk about these pieces of equipment. My number one, if I can get it on the thing that floats away to the deserted island is, I'm going to take my incline cheese mat. So if you don't mind, Carrie, could you pull that out, the smallest one? It's really this is the portable one that I cannot live without. This piece of equipment is, and hopefully everybody can see Carrie there. It's a little bit of a, just an incline, but it's very small. It's got a handle on it. Carrie, if you can fold that up and show them the handle on the side, you can just carry it. And one day I called Carrie and I said, Carrie, sometimes when I have my little 2-year-olds carrying, and I mean carrying this equipment, because that's how light and durable it is, you need to put something on there to keep that closed, because when the 2-year-old picks it up, it flaps open. And she laughed at me and she said, Sheri, it's already there. We've already thought of that. There's the piece of Velcro, and it's already there for you. So, that is my go-to piece of equipment. So I thought I'd start with this and show you a little bit about why I love this piece of equipment. And so here's this little guy that you guys have all seen before. You all have him on your caseload. He's got low muscle tone. This little guy happens to have spina bifida, but a low level spina bifida. But just look at his little rounded back. Look at his little slouchy posture. His head is back. He's in extension, and he's propping on his little legs with his hands. He can't even engage with that toy. He's not going to do much, in speech therapy when he's kind of all slouched down like that. You guys have all seen this kid kiddo. So, you know, how do we do this? So we put him on that little incline mat. This thing, I have this little incline mat. I pop it underneath of him. Immediately, look at his little spine. His spine is straight. His head is aligned. He's able to reach up and play with those toys. You know, he's losing his center of gravity here and there, but he's really looking good on that. And all I did was pop a little incline mat under him, and that's it. So this is one of the things that I use. You can see I stacked up some toys in front of him and used his visual motor system to kind of elongate his spine and get him upright. But he and I use this a lot. And so he has really built up his abdominal muscles, his gluteal muscles and everything. So I love it just for nothing else but to sit a kid on it and do my therapy. This is great for the OTs who are doing fine motor things, and also the speech therapists that are trying to get some vocalization or some intra-abdominal pressure and just increase their ability to do whatever they're going to do. So I love it for just that. I also love that this thing folds up and just slides in the back of my car. So I can carry it everywhere. One of my favorite things about the Tumbl Trak material that it's made of is that it wipes off, like, you know, we are getting drooled on and many other body fluids are happening during our therapy sessions. And with COVID, I cannot tell you how much I appreciated the fact that I just took a wipe and wiped it all down and it was ready to go. And I never worried about it being dirty, looking dirty. You know, it was just always a really good thing. So here's a little guy that has a spinal muscular atrophy and has literally very, very weak, and sitting up for him is a big chore. He has a lot of upper body stuff. So I use the back of this wedge. It's really, these are some of the little secrets that I've learned, is it's exactly shoulder width for a child. So when you turn around and you bring those arms behind you and you're working on primitive reflex integration and you're working on head control for those little babies, you just bring those arms back and put them over the side, and all of a sudden everything gets activated. Their scapular come together, their core is activated. I can then progress him to a kneel. I can have him kicking a ball in the first photograph up and down, and then I can have him up on his knees, even further activating it. Then I can go ahead and stand him on that, and I'm getting good contact through his heels. So for this particular child, it's not necessarily the case, but I am activating his quads, his glutes, his abdominal muscles, getting him to reach up overhead. So just all we did was change his position on this incline mat, and it changed everything for him. One of the biggest populations that I've seen, I don't know if there's an epidemic where you work, but is toe walkers, toe walkers, toe walkers. And this is the exact right piece of equipment to put your toe walkers on facing downward, because it gives them that good impact through their heels that we're all trying to find. My favorite thing about this particular incline is that it's very firm. It's not too firm, so you still have a good compliant surface, but it's firm enough that you can have them facing down. Now I lost my train of thought there for 1 second, sorry. It'll come back, don't worry. We're gonna go to this little guy. This is a little guy with a neurological issue, and I use this for crawling. This little tiny wedge, and I use it, he's inside sitting now, so I'm giving him some joint compression through his arm. We're working on integrating some of his reflexes, crossing midline. His dad's playing with him, but this little wedge, I just pop it on the floor in his living room and open it up. Some of my parents have, well, I would say during COVID, a lot of my parents have ordered these for their home. It's reasonably priced. It's super portable. It's shipped to the house and they have them in their home. So this has been great. I know what it was, Carrie. If you can just show, hold on, I'll do this little guy and then I'll tell you that. Here's another little guy who's working on quadruped. And because it's just a little elevated and it goes uphill and everything, his mom is at the other end of the ramp, bringing cars down the ramp and stuff. The dad's able to control his hip and knee flexion with his legs right there. And the little guy's wrists are extended, so he's working on upper extremity weight bearing on an incline. And look, this little guy has almost no head control in sitting at this picture. He does now. But look at that cervical extension in his thoracic extension all through there, but he's not going into like a tonal extension, even though he has very strong tone. And this little incline just gives enough of that weight bearing on there. What I was going to tell you, Carrie, is grab that again, or go ahead back on it, and I'll tell you One of my very favorite crazy things about this that I never thought about as a therapist is you get into the house or you're working with a kid. I lay it on its side all the way horizontal, and it horizontal the other way. Yep. And it is absolutely the perfect height for that little child to sit on. So your 18-month-old, your 2-year-old, your 3-year-old, it carries a little bigger than that, but it's exactly the right size. So you know how your cube chair is always the right size? This is exactly the right size. So then I'm going to work in this child with kneeling. So I'm going to turn it the other way on its side that way. And I'm going to work with that child in kneeling, and I'm going to use that as a surface table. It is exactly almost always the right height for my kids. Then I'm going to flip it on its side, and I'll make that child stand. And Carrie, you're going to definitely be too big for it, but it is exactly the right size for standing. It also has Velcro on the bottom of it. And so it sticks to the floor. It sticks to the carpet. It sticks to everything. So I would say they've thought of things I didn't even know they were thinking of. But if I had to go on the desert island, this is the first thing that I would pick. And I also sit on it all the time. So I'm working with a child on weight bearing, on weight shifting, and I just sit on it. I can turn it down here, up here. It's just, I can't say enough about this piece of equipment. So that's my favorite. This piece of equipment also comes in 3 more sizes, a small, medium, and large, or 2 more.
It comes in 3 or 4, depending on how large you want. But more common for therapy would be, there's 3 other sizes bigger than this. I have the medium one I can bring out.
Okay, so I use this in obstacle courses. I use this all the time for, sometimes I'll use it to secure something. If I'm working on jumping, it's the perfect thing for kids to jump down. It's also, you know, I know the measurements of each side, so I can have the kids jump off for when you're doing like a Peabody or a standardized test. So I kind of know how high all that is. And that's what I use as my blocks. And it's very firm. Am I shouting at you guys? I just want to make sure I'm not talking too loud. Okay. But look at the size of that one. So I can take a baby on that one and work on rolling, because you can take that. You don't have to roll, Carrie, if you don't want to. But I love that for working on rolling. It is the best place to get reciprocal crawling up. Some of you might know that a lot of the commercial inclines or ramps that we have out there are so compliant that when your kid stands on it, they can't do anything because it's just too mushy. And the last thing I want to say about this is, I don't know how many of you guys are on social media when there's probably twice a week somebody says, how do we work on jumping? And I always feel like it's obvious, but when a child learns to jump, I'll just say it, they shift their weight from their forefoot to their hind foot, and then their forefoot fast to jump. And so giving them something in their hands is not going to teach them how to jump. It might help them move their feet and increase their mobility. But if you put a child on the bottom of this ramp, just on the bottom of this incline, and you teach them to jump down on it, their weight automatically shifts and they jump. So I would say 99% of my kids have learned how to jump on the bottom of the Tumbl Trak incline. And it doesn't matter which one you use. They all kind of have the same incline angle. They're just bigger. So that's my spiel on that. My second piece of equipment that I would take on the deserted island, if there was room on the raft, is this air barrel. And Carrie, if you want to grab one of those,
Yep, I'll grab it.
Sorry, I'm going to make her work. So I'm no spring chicken anymore. I've been doing this for almost 35 years, and my back doesn't do, and my knees and my hips, and pretty much my everything doesn't do what it used to do anymore. The one that you see Carrie have there, that's the medium, but this one is the small that you see this little girl sitting on. I use this a bazillion times a day. In fact, we have a room, a gym, and then we have a separate room in our clinic. And every time I knock on the door when someone's in, because we're kind of keeping separate still for COVID, every time I knock on the door, nobody even asks me what I want. They just open the door and shove the air barrel out because they know that that's what I want. This inflates and deflates, although it's super light. If any of you have used bolsters in your treatment, which is huge, you know that some of the bolsters that are on the market are really heavy. And when you set them on your side to store them, every once in a while, you'll hear this crash in the gym because that thing fell over. That's never a problem with this. In fact, I will say to my kids, can you go get me the air barrel? And my 2-year-olds, work on their backwards walking by pulling the air barrel. If you can see, there's a handle on the side of that. This can be hung from a swing and used as a punching bag. It can be used in standing or kneeling to work on, balance and control. So I use this so much, but what I really use it a lot for is just, I straddle it and I get behind the child. I do a lot of upper respiratory muscle work, a lot of breathing work. I do a ton of kind of Mary Massery-ish, working on the intra-abdominal pressure and chest wall expansion. This is such a great way because you're neutralizing the pelvis, you can control the pelvis, you can get behind that child, and you can really work on that, the chest wall expansions, the rib cage, all the things that we're working on to get their pressure better so that they can do everything better. Right here, I paired it with this little girl with the fun sticks. And if you look at the bottom, I don't know if Carrie's in a position. All right, hang on there, Carrie, stay there, I'll come back. We're just gonna make her run around. Those fun sticks are just these crazy fun sticks. They literally just stick to the ground, and I use them for everything. In the picture on the left, you can see the little girl doing prone extension, bringing that little ring over top of the fun stick. There's short ones that are about half of the size that you see there, and then there's long ones. And I work on trunk rotation on here. I can stick those sticks anywhere along that air barrel, including behind, and get them to rotate their trunk backwards. I will sit in front of the child, as you'll see in the next picture or the next video. On the left, this is a little girl. I'm working on her core activation. I'm face to face with her, so we can work together. We can blow bubbles. You can see her working. I can bring her side to side. I use it very much like I use a regular Swiss ball, except that it doesn't have as much play to it. So you know how you're sitting there and you have your nice space in the gym and you're working with the child on the ball, and then you roll the child over once and then everybody has to move out of the way because you're kind of getting out of your space. Whereas the air barrel, I can work on the child, like I had this little girl in supine, but I can work on her laterally, side to side, and then I can turn her around the other way and I can have her go backwards over it and sit up. So it just kind of controls. You can kind of isolate out movements a little bit. I work on rolling with kids on this, so I'll have them roll from one side to the other. Pretty much any of your NDT movements are great on this. And then what you see this other little guy doing, he's using his hands at first because he can't figure out how to move it, but I'm working on core strengthening, deep pelvic muscles, trunk rotation, and I can set anything up on either side of this. So you can see Carrie set up the blocks. What do you call them, Carrie?
Oh, these are the folding mini ramps, but
Okay.
Booster blocks would work as well.
Okay, and then there's also, if you look on the very corner of this picture, you can see that there's these little triangle, it's on the corner of the little girl, there's these little triangle wedges. Those are like a cradle. And so if you look on the side of the air barrel, there's a piece of Velcro, that's the loop, right? I never know the difference between my Velcro. Okay, so that's the loop. So that sticks to that cradle, and I can make that air barrel stay completely still so it doesn't rock at all the first time I put the kid on it. Then I can move those little cradles out a little bit and it'll just have a little play. And then I can move it out, way out, and I can do what I'm doing with this little guy. If you show it again, you can see him going side to side. So I love this. This has also been a big piece of equipment that my parents have ordered to use at home because I can give them 5 exercises every week to do on this and never run out of stuff to do on it. So I'm not sure what was that?
Yeah, Sheri, just for reference too, the ones in the red one in the video is the 24-inch. So there are 3 different sizes. They come in different colors, but the one in the video is 24 inches. The one I was sitting on here, that's the 30-inch size. And there's also an even bigger one, 36-inch. So
right. It's the best. You can put 2 of them together. I think maybe there's one more video for my OTs, or in the next slide for my OTs. I use this against a million different surfaces, but this little guy is just getting his heavy work on because he's, whatever, got some regulation issues or whatever. I might be working on my core strength here. I might be working on my for my little toe walkers, getting them some push off. I do this all the time. You can put 2 of them together next to each other and get even more surface, but we just have a lot of fun with it. So the kids love it. It's really good. And I also will put them on their belly in front of something else called a power launch that you'll see, and have them, and I push them against the wall and have them reach up, and they push against it, and they love that. Talk about prone extension and core activation. It's like crazy good. So this is my other piece of equipment that absolutely I'm sneaking onto that deserted island if no one's looking, if I can only take 2. Okay, so what do we have? Okay, so here is a little girl that actually, before I say anything, if you look in the background, there happens to be another incline. It's way too high for me to use. It's a wedge, I will call it. But you can see how compliant that is. And every time a kid steps on it, it just mushes. So that's why I wanted to just say about that. This underneath my little friend here who's in sideline, she's working with an OT in this picture. And I can just take these are called half rounds. Carrie, do you want to show some of those? We're going to talk about these in a minute. She's coming to get them, but I just use these for positioning, and I stick them for when you're working with those kids that have all that extensor tone. I will just stick this on the ground all along their back so that I can keep them in a flexed position so they can work in midline and sideline. So I was just kind of showing that here because we just caught it. Carrie, there's 2 sizes in these. Those are the long ones. And then the next to it, you'll see that there's ones half that size. I think is this what I'm talking about next? If it is, we'll go to the next slide and we'll see. Nope. Yep, maybe. Okay, so here's the same girl sitting up. And this is in her home. They ordered this equipment for their home, but I use that half round right there, stuck on one of our mats that has Velcro on it, and just stick it on the back of her. And I can work on some of her scapular approximation with just that half round stuck on top of the Velcro. And then I just stuck something else behind her, but okay, go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, Sheri, this is the Build-A-Mat that's behind Liv. It's a carpeted surface and it's just one panel of tumbling mat. So you can add as many Build-A-Mats together to make a long tumbling surface, or just use them individually, which is really useful because they don't take up much room. But your setup was, because this is a looped carpet surface, any of our Velcro products will stick right to it. So that's how you have that set up. And then leaning against the incline, I can grab that.
Yeah. So this is just one way that I'm working on her sitting balance. She doesn't sit independently, but we were working on her spinal extension and scapular approximation. So that's how we had that set up. So that's just another way that we use that. I'm going to probably go back to those half rounds because I can't even tell you how much I use them for everything. And so give me a couple seconds and I'll get back to that. That's good. We can go to the next slide. So this next thing is called the fitness wheel. And I think we ordered this because it was so darn cute and it looks like a rainbow and it's happy, but there's a million uses for this too. When you look in the first picture, I'll let you listen to this.
You want me to play it? Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. You can see what we're doing here.
And then we'll travel. Okay, can you put hands on green and feet on green? This took a couple weeks to get this good at. Hands on blue, feet on blue. This is amazing. It's almost like a little mini plank. Hands on red, yellow, feet on yellow. Okay, can you go the other way now? Let's go back to blue. We can play Twister on this. You are doing so well. Okay, one more, green and green.
So I was working with him on, heavy work on just like kind of joint compression and all those things that our little low tone kids need so much. If you flip it over the other way, it becomes a mini trampoline. And I know that for safety reasons, when you use it as a trampoline, you're not supposed to inflate the bottom. You're just supposed to inflate the top part. Am I right?
Yep.
And that makes sense because we don't want anybody flying off of this thing. But here's the truth. I have a disclaimer. You didn't hear this. When you are working with a 2-year-old on jumping, and they are at eye level with you, and you can help kind of control that pelvis, or you're working on single limb stance and you want a little compliant surface, they're eye to eye level with you. So sometimes I will cheat and I will use this as a little mini trampoline, even with both, but you didn't hear me say that. And then you can turn it on its side and it becomes not only a swing, if you hang it, because it has, you can see all the hooks, and there's like 1,000 ways you can do it. But this, I think in this picture, it's not a video, but you can see like this, he's going to roll that back and forth. Or I think on the next slide, you can see it.
It'll come up in the next couple slides.
Yeah. There you can see it hung in 2 different ways. There's a, what did you call that, Carrie?
There are D-rings around the outside of the fitness wheel, and it's really easy to just run a rope around in between the 2 rings that are joined together. The rope will just sit in there and allow you to suspend it.
Okay.
Well.
But what did you call the black thing? You called that a harness?
Oh, fitness wheel hammock.
Hammock.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Sorry.
a new, that we designed that because so many therapists were wanting to suspend and use the fitness wheel as a swing. So
right.
It clips right to the D-rings and allows big swinging movement.
So
hey,
what?
Carrie,
Yeah.
I have it hung up right now. If you want me to peek into the gym, I can show you guys it's suspended with that hammock if you need to see it live.
That's fun. We could go on a field trip.
That's so cool. So what I use this for a million things, but my favorite thing is that this is a place where our kids get regulated. So when our kids come in and they're super hyper and they're super, we're going to go see it. This is so cool.
This is Carissa. Carissa is in Beaverton, Oregon, which is just outside of Portland. And her facility is called Spectra Gymnastics.
Oh, there it is in motion. Is somebody in it? This thing can take, I can have kids on the outside pushing kids on the inside, working on their stability and strength. But in my gym, the first thing the kids would do, if they saw that, was climb inside and hide from us. And it's like so regulating for them. They love it. Even if it's on its side, they'll go in it. So this is just great for vestibular. I can't say enough about this. This also comes in 2 different sizes.
Yeah, the next slide shows the 8-foot version.
Okay, next slide. Oh, I didn't.
I think we're, yep. Okay, here we go.
Oh, here you go.
It is quite, I mean, 8 foot, it's a pretty big diameter. You need some space for it. And those rings that we hung on the inside, this child could actually hang from the rings inside the wheel and do all kinds of strength work.
Yeah, this is just fun. I mean, you know, not everyone has room for something like this, but it's just fun and it's happy. And if you're looking for a little wow factor when somebody walks into your clinic for the first time scared because they've got something going on with their kid and they see this, it kind of makes them feel happy. I don't know, it makes me feel happy because of the rainbow. So, but I just love this and I really use this a lot. So, okay. We'll go on. So that was my kind of core spiel, and we're going to go into a little bit of motor planning. But I want to say something before we go forward. There are a lot of equipment, places, and people that I've seen in the past that have, like I said, you know, kind of a one-trick pony equipment. And I consider myself a pretty creative person and I like to come up with new ways of using things. But I also recognize that when a child comes into the gym who is on the autism spectrum or who has some regulation issues and they like to see, like they need to see the same thing, you can configure your gym the same way for that child. And then 2 seconds later, you can undo it all and change it into something completely different. And as a creative person or somebody who likes to use things in very creative ways to try to get kids to do things, I really value the fact that the equipment is so versatile, that it can be used, the same thing can be used in 1,000 different ways. And if you're lucky enough to be in a clinical situation where you can see other therapists working, one of my favorite things to do. We thought about making a book of all the ways we use these things, and then we realized there's no way we could make a book because there's just too many ways to use it. So I like looking across the gym at the person, see what they're doing, and then I steal it and I use it in my next session. So as far as motor planning goes, I think we can move on to that one. Okay, so this is really simple, but I work with a lot of babies, and we're always trying to get them to crawl and creep, and we're always telling parents to throw pillows in the middle of the room and let them crawl over. This is really simple. This is 2 mats unfolded to different levels, so I can make them as high or as low as I want. I can work on stair climbing with my kids by just stacking mats on top of each other at different levels. So if I want to progress a child from 4 inches to 5 inches to a standard step, I can use all of these different pieces of equipment. This is not what they were used for at all, but I just slide them out, put them in the middle of the room. And this is a baby doll that unfortunately has a cast on her leg, but this is just how I use it with my babies, and just moving around and tell parents, kind of shows them how to take the cushions off the couch and use it. But I just wanted to show you how easy it was to just slide things around. Go ahead. This is in the background, you'll see an obstacle course. This is, you're gonna have to tell me what these are called, because I'm gonna call them the wrong thing.
Balancing boulders.
Balancing boulders. And I believe that you have some other ones coming out soon that are different.
Yeah, there are a couple of different sets. Each one of them has, a different special quality. This one in particular, all of them are just super durable, but they have a tactile top. As you can see, it's really grippy, and the bottom edge is really grippy also. I love that because so often you'll step on something that's plasticky like this and it'll slide on the floor, but they really do hold so very solid and keeps the kids feeling confident when they're that secure.
This little girl in this video is a Hemi, and I'm telling, it's so cool to watch her work with these, because she really has progressed, and now we're using them for patterns, like she sets them up by herself. They all stack together in one unit. But one of the interesting things, I think I was telling you this the other day, Carrie, is kids will come in and they will look at that green one with the blue stripes, and they will say, I want to walk on the blue one. They don't see the green underneath. And then the other kids see it as green. It's been so fascinating to me. I need an OT or someone to tell me why that is, or what that whole ground thing is. But I just love these for so many reasons, and I'm excited to see the new ones. But I set these up in obstacle courses. Honestly, I let the kids set up the obstacle courses. I'm like, okay, where are we putting these? What are we going to do with this? Every piece of equipment, I can't think of any that they cannot move by themselves. Maybe some of the power launch I have to help them with, but the kids can stack them up, they can fit them together, and they can use them. So you can go ahead to the next one.
And now you're doing it all by your okay, up the hill, ladybug.
She's going to head over to the incline mat and go up there. And my obstacle course in the background, you can see it's just a stacks of mats on top of each other. We do not have a lot of room in the clinic that I'm in now. And so everything just kind of stacks against the wall, and we pull it out and use it as we need it. You can go ahead. This on the floor here that I use for motor planning a lot is the laser beam, right?
Yeah.
This is a balance beam that is super portable. It has, do you have that available, Carrie?
I do, it's right here.
I know that Tumbl Trak has a whole bunch of balance beams. This one I just love because you can use it anywhere. It's sturdy enough. I believe it has it's wood inside, right? The core of it is wood. So
it's solid wood, and it's 7 inches wide.
Okay, so it's 7 inches wide. That's wider than most balance beams, right? I don't know, I'm not, what are most balance beams, 4?
Competition beams are 4 inches wide.
Okay, well, the Sheri beam is 7 inches wide. And you can put this, you can see, I was just doing some motor planning things with this little guy, but it has lines down the middle. So this particular activity it was for balance, and it was for motor planning, but it was also for visual tracking. I was working on some of his side-to-side visual tracking. And and some, other things with him. But the lines down the middle really help our new little kids that are walking kind of focus visually. We have some kids that have visual motor issues that have a lot of our toe walkers actually, who have difficulty integrating their ambient vision and their focal vision. And so I'm using his focal vision and his ambient vision together here with these other things. And I love this. So Carrie elevated it by putting it on 2 different pieces of equipment. Does this have Velcro on it?
It doesn't have Velcro. It's pretty solid. So underneath,
show this anti-skid thing on the bottom. That's what I remember.
It's vinyl on the bottom and it stays pretty put. There is Velcro on the end in the case that you want to make it a longer, but you can add 2 laser beams together.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of people use it elevated like this, either on one side or both. You really do need to be gentle. Our weight recommendation is that you use it for either crawling or very gentle movement for kids that are under 75 pounds.
Right. And then there's a few other balance beams. You have, of course, the regulation size for those who can handle it.
Right.
But, there's also some compliant beams that are foldable that any traveling therapist could, I'll get to those half rounds because I use those for balance beams all the time. But okay, there's the one I love right there.
Yeah, that's a sectional beam.
Okay.
And there are 2, these are 2 separate ones. They are 4 feet each and they Velcro apart. They're covered in a micro suede sort of soft material, but ours are really nice and firm on the top and pretty reputable for being durable because of that. We don't use squishy foam.
How much would you say that weighs, Carrie?
Oh gosh. 4 pounds. 4 pounds. Shirley wins.
So you could put that and throw that in the back of your car and take that to someone's home if you had to. I know we're not supposed to bring things into the home, but I don't know, special treat one day. Or you can take it from, one school to another school or whatever you're going to do. That just, we all have our 2x4s, painted 2x4s that we've used. But let me tell you, one of those falls over. This thing falls over and the kid just goes, whoop, and it doesn't fall. And the kids can carry those around. So go ahead to the next slide. Here I have a bunch of half rounds stuck to the floor. For my toe walkers, this is amazing because you can use this laterally or you can use it side to side. I'm using the cones for him to kind of just mark his place, but this is just a bunch, that's probably 2 half rounds stuck together on the floor. So that was what I was telling you before about the half round. Go ahead and move on. Okay, so these are the half rounds. And in this left one for motor planning, I've made a climbing wall out of this. This is behind it is the power launch, right?
Yep, you got it.
So the power launch is an inflated. This is another one that if I could sneak this on the deserted island, I would. This power launch with the half rounds. But the power launch, it's like a little bit of a trampoline that's perfect for that 2-year-old who's just learning how to jump, but you don't have you don't want them to have too much bounce, like as a trampoline, because they just can't manage it. So it's great for those little intrinsic foot muscles that you're working on. So it's firm, but it's compliant. And then it has these great, you can see there's a Velcro or a fabric carpet overlay that goes over that. And then I just stuck the half rounds right to it and made a climbing wall out of it. So if you look over what Carrie has right there is another overlay. Oh my gosh. Is everybody following what I'm talking about with overlays and stuff like that? Can you peel that overlay up so they can see it? See that? There's the power launch. And then there's the overlay on top of it. So she's jumping on that and it's fabulous. And the kids really have a lot of fun with that. I put that up against the wall and have my kids kick off of it when they're over the air barrel, or I put them in prone and have them push against it. This is a piece of equipment I use a lot. That that's a little mountain with a climbing wall on it. And I will just put that up against anything that's pretty stable behind it. And my kids will climb up it and over it. It's perfect for anything from like an 18-month-old up to a 4 or 5-year-old who's working on motor planning. You'll see that again. So the little guy on the right is going up the climbing wall. I flipped those half rounds over for this little guy who's a big time toe walker, was a big time toe walker. And I use these for ankle mobility, for strengthening, and made a little kind of obstacle course across there. So he's got his feet on the Velcro part of it. So I might do some things over it. I use these as hurdles to jump over. I use them stuck on the wall. I just grab these and use these everywhere. So these are really very versatile. I really enjoy using that one.
And Sheri, I also, one of my favorite things about the half rounds is that in pairs, the Velcro is in opposition. So you can Velcro them together and make a full round or a bolster shape that stands up tall for all kinds of games, but it's firm enough to use similarly to how someone might use a small bolster.
So I might use 2 of those and then elevate it on the back as a bolster, but I definitely use that a lot for that too. Yeah, okay. Here's my little friend just enjoying herself, just enjoy her little song. She puts this music to everything. You're gonna have to start that over because we need to hear her sing.
She's so cute.
I can't hear her. Can you hear her?
Oh, I can't hear her either. I wonder.
All right, she's singing Coco Melon, climb, climb, everybody climb. And she sings it all the time up here. But, and then you can see on the other side, I just dumped a bunch of mats together and she's gonna negotiate that, turn around and motor plan her way down that, or she can go up the other side and go down that side. I love this. And if you can see, they're just little cubes. The Velcro is so strong that they can just, I can climb up it. I've done it. It's not pretty, but I've done it. But you can just see, so she's working on that, all kinds of motor planning here. They love it.
It really is about the power launch, the fact that it's 8 inches thick, and when you inflate it really tight, it becomes super rigid. But you can just let a little bit of the air out of the valve, and then it becomes much more bouncy.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so you can see the power launch used. You can go ahead and play that one. You can see this used. So this is a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old, and you can see how much fun she's having jumping across that. That's all they were doing, was just kind of following each other. And then you can see the different, are those fun sticks on there?
Yeah, they're fun sticks and half rounds. And Rosemary, the therapist in the video, she suspended the end on bungees actually from her ceiling suspension. So not only did it have bounce, but the whole end can bounce as well.
Yeah. And I have had that where, we put it on a pole in the middle and just sat it up against the wall. I just really like that piece of equipment. And you can see in the right, they're using the air barrel with that kind of as a climbing wall for him. So really good. That's another great piece of equipment. Okay, so for motor planning, I love hopscotch. And they have a hopscotch mat, and I had to have this because I was tired of drawing it in the parking lot all the time. But the thing that's so great about this with him is that I don't even have to be with him when he's doing this. So a lot of times what I do with this mat is I will unfold this at the last 5 minutes of my session when I'm trying to talk to the parent. And it's fun to watch what the kids will do, but it's compliant enough. This is harder or more firm than the typical mats. So you can see there's a little bit of compliance to it. So he gets some bounce off of it, but he still can do some jumping on it. So I love this. I love this mat. Now this mat flips over, and on the other side of it, there's a line down the middle, and it's a foot, excuse me, a foot between each line. So this is really great for your Peabody, when you're doing your Peabody and you want to do your jumping. It's firm enough that you don't, it's firm as any carpeted room. And so you can see this little guy, I'm using the line down the middle. I can use that as a balance beam too. Hold on, I can kind of use that as a balance beam. Here you were using it with the sliders that you guys have. And this is a toe walker in the top picture, and I'm using the sliders. He's supposed to not touch the white, but you know, our toe walkers' feet go out like this when they get their heels down because they're really not in alignment. So we're working on getting him to kind of build up an arch and use those sliders. Those are kind of like furniture movers, but they're bigger, and even my biggest toe walkers can use those. So, and because the mat is so compliant, they slide right down it. In the bottom picture, I'm a huge Play-Doh person. I use Play-Doh for everything. And so everybody got tired of pulling it out of the carpet. And so I can stick the Play-Doh right on the mat and work on my little toe walker's heel strike on that mat. And the kids love the numbers for some reason. So you have a kid that's running ragged in your, running all over the place in your gym. And I'm like, everybody sit on a number, and they sit on a number, or go get the number 6 or something. So this is the other side. I have used this mat as a barrier around a toy shelf. When you can see Carrie has it opened, it's very, very long, but it folds. Yeah,
that's one of the neat things about it, is that it is 12 feet long, which is longer than most standard tumbling mats that are 8 feet long. They come in different sizes, but pretty standard is 8 feet. So having 12-foot length, and it's a little bit narrower at 3 feet wide, so it stands up so rigidly.
Yeah. So I will use this for that runner who runs out of the room, but I can't, I'll block the doorway with it. We use this for a lot of things. So, but this is another great piece of equipment with a lot of uses. So this is just a little obstacle course that this little man set up all by himself. And I don't know if it goes all the way, but I incorporate the actual Tumbl track into this. He had to do it again because he did not use a 2-foot takeoff and landing, which we require. And then you can see he's going to those steps. So, and onto the Tumbl track. So we can set up circles. And my kids love to set up their own obstacle courses. If they set them up, and I always tell them, if you have to do it, I have to do it. But if they set those obstacle courses up, they are going to participate more. If you can you stop the video? We're going to talk about those steps a little bit, I think, soon, but I just want to show how they fit on the end right there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can see they are the exact height of the Tumbl track. And so it's it's a very safe place for our kids to climb up and down. They also could turn this way. So if you are working on stairs, ascending and descending stairs, you can just slide them over and put them end to end. You could take one of the blocks and put it between, or a mat in between if you want to make more of a platform. But everybody always wants steps in their clinic, but nobody has rooms for steps. And the steps always take up a huge footprint in the clinic. And so if you don't have that much space, these steps are like the perfect thing that you can put back to back or side to side, or put them away. We put ours in a corner when we're not using them. Go ahead, you can move on. So here's a little girl, this to just show you how light the equipment is. She's, like I said, this little girl is a hemiplegic, and she, or has a hemiplegia, and she can easily move this. She's working really hard with her left hand and her left foot to push this, but it's so rewarding for her because she's moving the staircase that she was just climbing on. So, and I think you can Velcro, there's a piece of Velcro on the side that you can Velcro these together. So
I noticed that, Sheri, on that far side, that green strip comes off, and it's intended to secure 2 steps side to side.
Mm-hmm. Or sometimes I'll take it down the side and do it so that 2 but stay back to back. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't say enough about these steps. So then, here you go. You can see the steps, how they go up there. When we got the Tumbl track in the clinic, there was a huge discussion about the safety and the liability of having a trampoline in the clinic. And it was very, we had a lot of discussion about it because we were very nervous, and we settled on the Tumbl Trak because it could go up against the wall. It wasn't that high off the floor. And we felt like we could manage it pretty easily. This is a 15-foot one that we had in this clinic. I believe it comes in like 10 and I don't know, as long as you can
all 5-foot increments.
But one of the things I love is, and I have a little guy jumping on the bottom that you can see, and I'll just do some things. This is, you can use this therapeutically for a million things, and you're right there again, you're standing next to it, so you're not bending down and working. You can kind of see. I use this for gait analysis when I'm working with a child, when I can see, because you can really see how they're walking. It's compliant enough that they get a lot of good intrinsic foot muscle strengthening, but it's firm enough that you can see their gait pattern on it, and you can really stand there and be at eye level with their gait. So if this is a you know, a higher end, a little pricier piece of equipment to have in the clinic, but I think it's worth every penny because there's so much you can do with it. So sorry, I'm like
You're talking. That's a lot of talking.
Yeah. But I think that the biggest thing that we used this for was reward, for especially for our kids that were in OT and speech that were really struggling to sit still. This was what you got to do at the end of your session. And so it was a very rewarding experience for them. So I use this for a lot of things. Now that I'm choking, I think that—
Look at that, Sheri, just on cue.
Yeah.
It's your body telling you that it's our turn to talk.
Yeah.
Well, Sheri, it's a delight. Oh, I see there's a question in the chat there already, starting us off. Thank you, Sally. This is the part of our panel discussion. We are hoping that with all of those videos and those demonstrations that maybe some questions have popped up for you. We are happy to go back and revisit equipment, or please feel free to ask Sheri any questions that you might have about something that you saw. I see that Sally asked the question, can it fold up? And I'm thinking, Sally, you're talking about the Tumbl Trak? Yeah, so the Tumbl Trak itself is steel framing, and the original Tumbl Trak does not fold up. But we do have a few other versions. Shirley, do you want to share about the different versions of Tumbl Trak?
Oh, the different versions of—
Shirley.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, not a problem. I had down mute, sorry. Yeah, as far as the foldable one, that would be the Trak, and that's available in 15, 20, and 25, 15, 20, and 30-foot long lengths. And then, and literally you just peel off the pads and then you release the pin so that you can have two people folding it up. And you'll want to have two adults folding it up because it will be quite tall. As far as when you start folding it up, you'll find that the width is now the height. So you want to make sure that you have adults doing that. And then you secure the pin so that back together again, so that that stays folded up. And then you can roll it along on the side that has the coasters. The Tumbl Trak is made out of pure steel, and that does not have hinges that allow it to fold. So if you start out with a 10-footer, you know, it doesn't take up too much space really, but at least you can put it in one area of your gym that hopefully it's easily accessible for everybody.
Yeah, and Sheri, one of the other things that we didn't get to, one of the other pieces of equipment, but is you saw the power launch, which is an air-filled mat, but we have air-filled mats in all different sizes. The one here on the bottom is called an air floor. And a lot of folks who don't have room for a full Tumbl Trak will choose one of these air floors. It's 3 inches thick. When you're finished with it or not using it, you can prop it up against a wall or just roll it up, you know, similar to the size of a sleeping bag. And it is quite bouncy, especially if you're— this one is 10 feet long. So you are getting a similar movement to what you might get on a Tumbl Trak, but without all that steel.
I was going to add that because the Tumbl Trak has that space underneath of it, We at nighttime when everything was put away, or we didn't have things under it when the kids were jumping on it, because you don't
Right.
want that. But at nighttime, we just kind of pushed everything underneath the Tumbl Trak, and it was a great place to store anything that was flat, like the half rounds, the fun sticks, anything that there was still clearance that they could jump. Because when you jump on the Tumbl Trak, it does move, you know, it does compress. But when I jump on it, it really compresses. But when the little ones jump on it, it doesn't. But so we stored a ton of stuff under ours that was flat. So it kind of took up a lot of room, but there were ways to get around that.
Yeah, any other questions? Feel free to shout out or plop them in the chat. In the meantime, I'll take you for a walk since we're talking about the Tumbl Trak. This one in this gym is actually a 40-foot long one used for gymnastics. But Sheri, I don't even know if you have seen this. I'm going to make you very excited. This is called the transition Tumbl Trak. And this whole bed is Velcroable. So you can make an obstacle. You can stick all of your half rounds, your inclines, all of your Velcro manipulatives right to it. So it's a bouncy and Velcro surface. Pretty cool.
I was going to mention that a lot of people are very afraid of inflatables.
Yeah.
That was one of my concerns. In fact, when we were first starting, I remember someone saying, we're not doing anything that's inflatable because it will break down. I beat these things up so much, and they are just as good as the day that we got them. So really don't let the fact that it's inflatable scare you, because they really are very sturdy.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. We have been in making inflatable mats for how many years? 15, almost 20 years. We would venture to say we were some of the first inflatable technology out there, and we've come a really long way. And when I'm at a dance show or a gymnastics show, I know that there are a lot of choices out there when it comes to inflatable mats, but people come to us, and when they see and feel the difference in our vinyl, the difference in our valves, the features like the Velcro and the connectivity on either end, they are astounded by how different ours are than our competitors. So we're pretty proud of our air mats. Okay, what other questions do we have? Maybe we'll ask a question. Okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning, we are just so interested. We are interested in education, we are educators, and we are also learners. And so I'm hoping that maybe you might offer a peek into your knowledge, share some of your knowledge with us. So the question on the screen here is, what piece of equipment do you use most in your practice? It doesn't have to be a Tumbl Trak piece of equipment, any piece of equipment or shape. And then what piece of equipment sits in the corner of your clinic and you just don't choose to use it? Anybody have an answer? Or you could always put your answer in the chat if you feel.
Really often. Yeah. Except for the parallel bars for me.
Hi, Carrie. We're from
Hi.
Dana, and this is Jessica, and we're from BDI Playhouse, where Sheri used to be.
Oh, yay.
And we have tons of your equipment and simple stuff as just your folding mats, and your 4-inch ones are everywhere. Those nice landing mats, you can put them together. And those stackable blocks that you guys have are awesome for just jumping off of, and they're firm enough. So many of like other equipment that's too soft for kids. And that's what I was always looking for. I want kids to be able to stand up on something securely so they feel secure before they jump off of it. And it's just enough, like Sheri said, that it's soft enough, but it's firm enough, and it's perfect. And we use those all the time on everything. It's every obstacle course, those little red blocks are out there.
Yeah, those booster blocks. I have some over here, and they are just a great size. I'm glad that you noticed them. They're a great size, and we designed them with Velcro everywhere. right? So that you can stick them side to side or on top of each other or end to end. Here, there's 4 of them on these mat stacks here, but Shirley, I'm putting you on the spot. The size of the booster blocks, they are 18 inches wide.
Yeah, by 4 feet long.
By 4 feet long, I think, yeah. I'm second guessing myself. Awesome. And what about a piece of equipment that kind of sits in the corner? Not to call out another, not to call it out, but just what makes a piece of equipment just not very usable or?
Yeah. I don't know. I have a hard time think of anything Tumbl Trak related. We honestly use everything.
That's
The
good.
stuff that sits in our, I know, I'm like, truly, I'm not just saying that, but that is because it is easily movable. They're light. It's not heavy equipment. Heavy equipment sits in the corners and they're not, and the kids don't want to pull stuff out. We don't want to pull stuff out back and forth. It's exhausting. So, yeah, I would say one of the things that we were actually just talking about, because we were, we have a new OT that was here and she's like, oh, I got to use more of this equipment when we were watching this together. And I said, yeah, you know what we don't use enough is the bars, but I think it's because our therapists don't know how to use the bars. And I came from the gymnastics background, so I have kids on it all the time, and but I'm probably one of the very few that do that. So I need to, that kind of collects dust a little bit, I'd say, around here. It doesn't get used as much, but the kids kind of play on it. They try to manipulate themselves on it, but I think just more therapists don't use it as much because we don't know how.
Yeah, I imagine that to be the case. It's not often that I see a set of, a junior training bar in a clinic. A lot of the upper body strength I've seen comes from suspension, right? From places of suspension. So the junior bars are over here. And it sounds like you and I need to get together and coordinate some videos.
I would love, I have so many videos of my kids because I wanted to present to my therapist, and I'm like, and this is how you spot them doing a, forward roll off the bar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. I like anytime, or just, I see reflexes are, as Sheri was saying, you can see so many of these primitive reflexes show up, and then I can show parents, watch as they go over the bar, their hands come off quickly, and that's their reflexes. Of course, you're going to, stop yourself from falling, but then they fall off the bar. So they have to hold the bar and they have to override that reflex. And I try to explain that to people, and they're like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So, but I can show parents, I'm like, look, they're holding the bar, and I'll show them their video of them flipping over the bar. And when the kid can flip over the bar by themselves, it's like, I got to do it again. I got to do it again. I got to do it again. And it's so fun.
Yeah, we hear that all the time, that, and I've seen it we did a lot of work in our local school, and kids that, it really is the reaction of the therapists or caregivers that is so telling, because the kids will run into the gym and immediately go to the laser beam or go to the fitness wheel. And the caregivers, when their reaction is, oh my gosh, I've never seen her do that, or she typically shies away, it really does speak to the fact that the equipment does tend to be colorful and friendly, and the kids don't realize how much they're working. So.
And speaking of the fitness wheel, Carrie, we had 2 responses in the chat that the fitness wheel, both Maria and Carissa, commented that was their favorite piece of equipment.
Oh, neat. Well, I don't disagree. And what I would say is you saw a little snippets of uses of the fitness wheel, but we do have 2 separate videos that are dedicated just to the fitness wheel. All of our products have product videos where we try to highlight as many creative uses of the products as we can to generate creative ideas. And then every once in a while, often we'll scan YouTube and people come to us with even more ideas. It really, it's neat the way the movement community works.
We use, you guys have talked about a lot of different uses, but I also turn our fitness wheel into a ball pit by just turning it upside down and having sensory play, or throwing a parachute over the top and playing peekaboo, or just having a decompression space for some of the kids. It's just endless what you can do with it.
Yeah. I've seen the ball pit a lot, and I don't know that many people realize that the ring around the outside, because it's air, just like the power launcher airfloor, is bouncy as well. So with one ring inflated, even walking around the edge has a lot of bounce to it, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, it's always tough when we get to some great discussion in the Q&A to have to cut things short. But we want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know everyone is probably anxious to get going on with their evening. So to wrap things up, we do want to invite everybody to subscribe to our social media and our newsletter. We also, and we're kind of excited about this, have created a Therapy on Track Facebook group. And so we had a few other questions that we wanted to kind of go over, but we feel like we can maybe transition that discussion over to the group. Everyone who joined us today will be invited, will receive an invite to join that group, and we welcome everyone to. We'll continue to post videos. Carrie and Sheri continue their video work, so we'll have lots of content that we'll be releasing over the next weeks, months, and throughout the year. So if you enjoyed what you saw today and the information that you learned, be sure to accept that invitation. I also want to just remind everybody that if you attended the live event today, you are going to be receiving a $100 gift certificate. And we're going to limit that to one per clinic. But of course, Shelly and Shirley are our sales reps, and they'll be happy to work with you and Carrie if you are at all interested in getting a quote. And we would love to continue that relationship. And we just want to say thank you so much again for joining us today. Thank you to Sheri for sharing all of your wonderful information. It was really wonderful, and we look forward to continuing our work in this arena. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. It was really fun.